Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news, and it's nice to have a smile on our face this morning because we won a game of football. And I tell you what, we've got some very interesting things to discuss this morning. A big theory on Paul Pogba, which I think is pivotal to our top four hopes, and a massive reason why I do think Paul Pogba will be the main factor in us getting top four, and I'll explain why in a minute, why he's very different to every other United player, and it's not just about ability. We'll talk about that. Some very interesting comments from Rangnick and a potential new formation change again. Are we stepping more and more back to Ollie's way of playing because that's the best chance we've got a top four in the next few months? We'll also be analysing a little bit about the game yesterday, some really interesting things about the way people played and the way people were perceived, and I think Bruno is a really big indicator of this. I don't think he played well. I still don't think he played well. I've got people telling me he played great, and yet I'm one of Bruno's biggest fans. We'll also talk about Maguire, a bit about De Gea's distribution, Ronaldo, a few other bits. And also, I just want to say as well, if you want to see what Manchester United's problem is, watch the minute before Danny Welbeck's header yesterday. 89th minute, search it out, some point today, go a minute before Welbeck's header, watch it and you'll see what I'm on about. United's problem. I'll give you a little bit more detail on that in a minute, but that minute before Welbeck's header, you will see United's problem from front to back. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that would have been 1-1. I'm not talking about Welbeck's header missed. I'm talking about where it starts, how we're supposedly pressing in Brighton's bottom right back position. They end up putting a cross in, going right the way through our team, and the whole team has to look at that. Anyway, let's just before we get into it, lots to get into this morning, but United definitely did show a bit of balls last night. Maybe not everybody, but they did, and I'm excited to say that we're sponsored by Manscaped this morning, who've just launched their 4th generation performance package. The ultimate package includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You've heard it right. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. The leaders in male grooming, trusted by 4 million men worldwide. So you've still got a jungle in your pants. This is how you sort it out with the Lawnmower 4.0. It's got a new multifunctional on and off switch for people who like to travel. The ability to turn the LED light spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. The trimmer also allows you to customise the length that you want to trim at. And it's got a sleek two-tone matte finish plus a Manscaped logo on it, which is very nice. And of course, it's got wireless charging system, uses electromatic induction, which can help battery life longer, which is great. And in the performance package, you'll get the Lawnmower 4.0. They've also got the Weed Whacker, which you use for your nose. In fact, I haven't done Manscaped for a while, and that's the time I trim the hair nose, which is great. You get the Crop Preserver, the Crop Reviver, a very comfy pair of boxer shorts and a travel bag. And because Manscaped care about everyone that watches the United Stand, you can get an amazing 20% off plus free worldwide shipping when you use the code United Stand at checkout. So what are you waiting for? Check out the link in the description. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. Use that on your nose. Get one, get both, get the performance package, get 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Fantastic products, and I hear nothing but good about them. So give them a try. Big shout out to Manscaped, and hopefully United can follow through with a bit of Manscaped mentality and keep showing some balls at the weekend, because we moved to Leeds, and as Rangnick said after the match last night, you know, it's going to be another high intensity game against Leeds at the weekend, and I'd fancy us against Leeds. I think Brighton are a better side than Leeds, but the interesting thing about last night, and I want to start off with Pogba because there's so much to talk about last night. I think in essence, it's a brilliant result, but there's loads to learn from it. Like individually, we can talk about there's a few myths floating around the team as well. I think Diego Dalot is an example of a myth. I looked at some of the player ratings that I look at in other outlets, and the vast majority are Dalot didn't get forward well, didn't have a good game, and I'm like, you know, did you go to journalist school and just get a degree, or did you actually watch and play football? Like, you know, it appalls me like that people get bad performance ratings when it's not actually their fault. Dalot last night made more tackles and made more passes and had a better pass accuracy than any United player in a red shirt. Yet people are like, oh, Dalot was a bit crap last night. I think I'd put Wan-Bissaka in the team. And I'm like, well, it's very obvious why Dalot is starting to get a bit of stick, because he's got nothing going forward. Elanga didn't support him defensively and doesn't do the overlap for him, and neither does Rashford. I tell you, if he had Sancho on his side, everyone would be raving about Dalot. It's a very difficult job that he's got. He's getting no defensive support and he's getting no attacking support, which is why against Leeds I'd put Bruno on the right and put Pogba in the more advanced position so that Bruno can focus on his creativity from the right and he can link up well with Delot. But look, I think people misread the room. I think the Maguire Lindelof thing is very interesting as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I want to talk about Paul Pogba because I don't think Bruno played well last night. I really don't. And I know he had loads of potential assists. He scored a goal. But look, I'm one of Bruno's biggest fans, and he's starting to, hopefully he's starting to find some good form. In the second half he was a lot better, but I still think he's part of the midfield. That is his job. And I think because we won the game, some people just don't analyse a game of football very well, in my opinion. It's my opinion. Some people might say, I don't analyse a game well. I don't care. That's fine. It's an opinion. But I think because we won 2-0 and Bruno got a goal and, that makes it a good performance, and he could have had a few more assists. But I'm telling you now, I don't know whether you look at these things, but you can even get things around pressing stats on how you press. They've even come up with a formula on how you can look at how well a team presses. We pressed quite well in the second half, but if you compare the Brighton pressing in the first half to ours, we may as well have been asleep. It was ridiculous how they were pressing us and how we weren't pressing them. Our midfield was poor in the first half, and Bruno is a big part of that. I said it in the first half, I think this game and whether we win this game will come down to Paul Pogba. And I think whether we get top 4 will come down to Paul Pogba. And the reason for this is this. Manchester United are locked in to a weak mentality that they've had for years and years, and they're going to have it for the next 18 months. Whether we won last night, whether we draw with Southampton, whether we beat Leeds, whether we lose to Liverpool and Man City next month, that weak mentality is not going anywhere. It's staying, because these players have got weak mentalities. They're inconsistent. What did I say yesterday? People were saying it's going to be a 1-1 draw, and I said, but I don't think it will be a 1-1 draw, because that's too consistent for United to draw 3 or 4 games 1-1. The definition of inconsistency is that you don't be consistent, and we weren't consistent. We won the game yesterday when maybe we shouldn't have won it, but we played worse. I personally think that's our worst game at home this year, calendar year, but it's our best result. So, it's logically inconsistent from Manchester United. But the mentality is always going to be an issue. But what have we got in Paul Pogba? What have we got? We got a player who probably is going to leave in the summer. So he's not locked into the mentality of this lot who've got the pressure and, it's hard to be a United player. We're under so much pressure and we're nervous, and they're inconsistent. We've got a player in Paul Pogba who is like on cloud 9. I could go to Real Madrid, I could go to PSG, I could go back to Juventus. Maybe there might be a shock. Maybe a Chelsea will come in for me. Maybe a Bayern Munich will come in for me. The options are endless for Paul Pogba, and all he's got to do with that smile on his face and freedom. I've expected him to get a guitar out and start going, "Freedom, I won't let you down." And I don't think he will let us down, because he's not bound by the chains of this weak mentality at United, because he knows he's gone in the summer if he wants to go. Maybe he will sign a new contract. I'm not getting into a contract. I'm not getting into a conversation about whether Pogba's going to go or not. I'm getting into a conversation about how Pogba really is the key to top 4, and he could be Rangnick's saviour, because I've seen it in the last 3 games, and I'm sure you've seen it. The way he's playing is different to anybody else. He's not bound by the chains of inconsistency or pressure or whatever it is that these United weak mentality, whatever, because he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to think, oh my God, next season we might be playing in the Europa League. Next season he'll be playing in the Champions League. If he wants to, he will. He'll be playing wherever he bloody wants to. And I think in Paul Pogba, we're very lucky in a way to have a player like that who's coming into the games, definitely putting himself out there, definitely putting himself in the shop window, but definitely free of the weak mentality that the rest of the squad have. Because he's I wouldn't say he's playing for himself, but he's playing with a freedom. He's playing there to display his talents, and that will massively impact on our success, I believe, over the next few months in the short term. He won't be here next year. I think he'd be stupid to be here next year. If he's ambitious, why would he be here next year? But for the next 3 months, he's going to be at Manchester United, and he's different to anybody else. Look, maybe Ronaldo is better than Pogba. Maybe De Gea is more important to us than Pogba. Bruno will be more important to us than Pogba next year, because he will be here. But for the next 3 or 4 months, I think Pogba is this. He's almost like a new signing, and I hate that. But he's almost like he's like a loan signing for 3 or 4 months to get us top 4. He's playing with freedom. He's playing with a smile on his face. He's playing relaxed, and he's playing for the summer when I think he knows he's going to leave, but he doesn't need to think he's leaving. He just knows in the summer he's a free man and he can choose to stay at United, he can choose to go. And I think that's the thing. These United players that have a weak mentality, they're locked into a world that they can't get out of. No one will buy them. Some fans don't think they're good enough. Maybe they know they're not good enough, and they're locked in. They're locked into whatever Man United's uncertain future is. Paul Pogba's not. He can be here next season if he wants to be. He can be gone. And he's playing the game in a different way. And even before he came on yesterday, brilliant goal by Ronaldo. But even if it had been 0-0 with 20 minutes to go and Pogba had come on, that's when I think we might have won the game. Because I just think at the moment he plays different to anybody else because he's playing with the freedom. Sue came out to play against us, LS Colden. Always happy when we win, but I've never felt less invested in a group of players, says Joshua Bowwater. Well, look, I do want to start with the positive, and I think Paul Pogba is the positive. At the moment, he almost gives me something where I just feel a little bit happier. And it's maybe, put my hands up, maybe that's how I counteract what people like Joshua are saying, where they're not invested in United, they feel detached from United, because I certainly accept that. I don't think we can talk like we've talked for the last 2 weeks and then we beat Brighton in somewhat fortuitous circumstances and go, yeah, everything's all right, let's go and buy a t-shirt for the Glazers. Ultimately the problems are there and the long-term problems are there. But I think Pogba is something that you can attach yourself to and feel positive about if you just look short-term. And I think United, as much as they want us to think long-term, and Ollie's reign was always about long-term will be good in the future, I think the only way you mentally can deal with United at the moment is to focus on the short term. We don't know who the manager's going to be. Pogba's probably going to go in the summer. Cavani will go in the summer. We could lose Ronaldo in the summer. We might not. We've got to buy players. Some of these players are not good enough. The future is not... There's no point focusing on the future at United because the future is just impossible to predict. But the short term, I think Pogba symbolises that. And that's probably something to cling on to. And I know some of our fan base won't like it because Pogba is a divisive player. But my stance on Pogba has always been, I don't like the noise around him from Riola. I think he has been inconsistent for 6 years, but I've always liked the player. And I think these next 3 months, we might get the best Paul Pogba we've had in 6 years. It's almost like the Willian effect. Remember Willian at Chelsea when he was out of contract, and that summer he was just brilliant. He seemed to score all the time. He got a big move to Arsenal. He played well on his debut, and then I never heard of him again. Pogba's better than Willian, but there is an amazing... I think Pogba is massive for our top 4 hopes. I really do. You can bookmark it, you can discuss it. I'm happy to discuss it, but I think Paul Pogba, whatever you think about him, is so big for our top 4 hopes because history will show you when players are coming out of contract, they suddenly find consistency and good form. And it's logical because they have to. They've got to play for themselves. There's no, I'm not up for it today, or they've got to play well. Pogba knows he's got to play well. The world's watching him. People are talking about Erling Haaland. People are talking about Mbappe. People need to be talking about Paul Pogba, and the only way you can do that is by performing. And, people say that Atletico Madrid will beat us. I think we'll beat Atletico Madrid. We're not going to win the Champions League. We're not good enough. But with Paul Pogba in the team, I think he becomes really, really important. And I go back to what I said about Bruno. I don't think Bruno played that well last night. You can, stats are good sometimes, but they're also a mask sometimes. If you compare Lindelof and Maguire last night, I think Lindelof was better on the ball, but Maguire actually won more tackles, which is weird for Maguire. But Maguire won all his tackles in the first half and didn't really win any in the second half. And we were worse in the first half. So is that because we were busy? Stats can be deceptive. You've always got to look at what was going on in the game. But for me, Lindelof was better than Maguire, but Maguire actually did more statistically than Lindelof. So, for me, Bruno, he created loads of chances. He's had loads of key passes. I would, if you want to play, can you play McTominay, Bruno and Pogba against Leeds? That's the question. If Rangnick doesn't think he can, because we'll get overrun in the midfield, and he's got to bring a Fred or Matic in, then for me, if it's between Pogba and Bruno, I'm dropping Bruno. I never thought I'd say that, but I am. Because I think Pogba just has this thing. Because he's free in the summer, I think he's playing with a freedom that nobody else does. And I think that's going to be massively important. And you look at the race for top 4, this is why we should be winning the race for top 4. And I'm not going to say that the race for top 4 is something to be proud of. I think it's quite embarrassing, but we have to get it. But Arsenal don't have a Ronaldo. They don't have a Pogba. They don't have that quality of player. And I think that could be the difference for United. But I'm not running away with it. As I said, I think that there are a few myths that I sort of want to get into in relation to the game last night. And I think one of the first things I wanted to talk about was what Ralf Rangnick said after the game last night, because I think it was quite telling. He said that it should have been 3 or 4-0 after 75 minutes, but there is a bit of lack of assuredness in front of goal. I mean, look, sing when you're winning. You know, Ralf can talk about it should have been 3 or 4-0. I still think Brighton should have won that game. I do. I think even with 10 men, they carved us open quite a few times. And yes, we should have scored as well, but they did still do it. And in the first half, I don't know how we've gone in at 0-0. So look, I don't think we can paint that performance into a good performance. We can definitely sing it's a great result, but you know, we realised that they had too often possession of the ball and could only intercept in a few situations. Should we change to a formation to back three? We decided to stick to 4-2-3-1 with more risk, and it paid off. So Rangnick at half time was even thinking about going to a back five because Brighton were dominating possession, and that's a big line. Now, we like Rangnick, so we go, oh, look at him, he's being adaptive. If that's Mourinho or Ollie at a certain point of their reign, they're getting absolutely slaughtered. We're at home to Brighton being dominated and you're thinking about going to a back five. So, look, it depends on the mood. Rangnick still retains a positivity around him because a lot of people feel that he's been treated unfairly by players, by the board. But ultimately, Brighton came to United and played us off the park in the first half. And we all know that. And, you know, that's just the way it is. He said the win's very important after 3 draws. It was highly important, and another intense game is coming up against Leeds. High-speed football for 90 minutes, and we need to recover and be in form for Ellen Road. And that was basically what Rangnick had to say. But one of the other, I mean, there's loads of people talking last night, but one of the big things I wanted to say was, I thought what Lindelof said was quite interesting. He basically said, if we keep a clean sheet, we know we've got the players that can score a goal. And to me, this is Ollie ball. And I like the fact that people have embraced it, even though we probably don't like it, because to me it's very logical. For me, it's very good management. Rangnick came into the club for half an hour against Palace in his first game. We thought, oh my God, rock and roll football. He mentioned rock and roll football. 2 months later, we're not playing rock and roll football. We're not. We're playing counter-attacking football. We're playing football that these players have used to been playing over the last 3 years. And I think what Rangnick has done is realise that if he tries to get these players to play the way he wants to play, he'll get more dressing room leaks and will get more bad results. He also knows in the summer he's not getting the job. And if he's going to get the job, he needs to win loads of games. So I think Rangnick's done what we actually said this about Rangnick as well. As much as he's a rock and roll manager with his own ideals, he is also well known for getting the best out of what he's got. And I feel that against Brighton and against Southampton, it's 2 games now, it's not 1 game. Against Brighton and against Southampton, we've gone into that game knowing they're going to have better ball possession and be better on the ball and press us better than we are. At Old Trafford, we've accepted tactically that we will not have as much as the ball and we won't be pressing them as much as they're going to press us. And we basically played counter-attacking football against Southampton and Brighton at home. That might not please people, but I think Rangnick has probably had a chat with Maguire, probably had a chat with Ronaldo, probably had a chat with Bruno, you know, the big players in the team, and they've agreed that how do we get top 4 between now and May? And we go back to doing what we got as top 4 last year, which is a deep defensive line, hit on the break, keep a clean sheet, rely on a moment from a Bruno, from a Ronaldo, which is what we saw yesterday, and we got the clean sheet. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. Leeds is a very different game. I think Leeds, we might see Bruno and Pogba in the midfield 3 because Leeds play so open. It should play into our hands. But I think, you know, the Liverpools, the Man Cities, the Spurs, the Arsenals, we might see more of that yesterday. And again, it's a short-term thing. I don't think we'll be playing like that next season. I'd be very disappointed if we played like that next season. But I think we have gone back to what we've done for the last 3 years because these players are used to it and they're not able to adapt, as we've seen in previous weeks, to the Rangnick way of playing. This high line, this high press, they just can't do it. They just cannot do it. And this is why I think one of the most important things you can root out today, if you want to see what Manchester United's problem is that, and the reason we can't play like Brighton or Southampton or Liverpool or the way that Rangnick wants to play, if you go back to the match last night and you search from about 88 minutes to the Welbeck header, you want to start it off where I think the right-sided centre-back for Brighton has got the ball and and he's sort of in the right corner, near the corner, on the edge of his box. There's 3 United players pressing him, and you're thinking, this is going to be a chance for United. And what actually happens is, under pressure, he passes through, he takes 3 players out, they pass all the way through the midfield, they get to the left-hand side of the pitch, then they come across to the right-hand side of the pitch, and they put a cross in, and Welbeck gets a free header. Maguire doesn't jump, Lindelof's lost him, a free header for Welbeck. It could have been 1-1 in the 89th minute, and we're screwed. It's not really the chance that bothers me. It was a clear-cut chance, and thankfully Welbeck didn't take it. But it's the way that they play under pressure on the edge of their own box, where he's really under pressure, and they get all the way up the other pitch, and they pass all the way through us. We never put a challenge in the midfield. We never put a good challenge in defence, and they put a cross in. And that, to me, is why Rangnick has got to play the way he's played the last couple of games, why we can't press. We don't know how to press. We're not very good at tackling, and we leave way too much space when we do press. So I think we are forced to go back to what we used to do under Ollie, which is deep, counter-attacking football. Keep a clean sheet, rely on a moment. And if you want to see United's problem, watch that period of play, because Brighton with 10 men make us look like we've got 10 men and just pass through us. And we just don't have the players. We just don't have the players to play the way we want to play at the moment. And I think if we want to get top 4, I think Pogba's going to be pivotal, but I think we're going to have to go back to that. As simple as that. De Gea needs to leave and get Alisson or Edison, says Anthony. Okay, I want to talk about this. I love this from Anthony. I absolutely love this, because I'm getting really tired of this. I think, to be honest with you, I have to respect the fact that people have an opinion, but I'm really worried about aspects of our fan base. I mean, I'm going to sit you down because you deserve to be sat down, but I woke up this morning and I tweeted it. I'm seeing criticism for Ronaldo and De Gea when bag of shit players for United were bag of shit last night, and they've had a free pass. I've not really heard anything about McTominay and Fred. They were a disgrace, an absolute disgrace in the first half. They may as well have laid down waving a white flag. They were absolutely shocking. Rashford came on, he was absolutely shocking. Ronaldo wins us the game, and De Gea's getting stick for winning us the game as well. And you know what they're talking about? You know what these idiots are talking about? Ball distribution. Ball distribution, that's what they're on about. Oh, De Gea might be saving us games and he might be player of the year, but he's got bad ball distribution. I even heard a mainstream journalist falling into the trap saying De Gea played well, but his distribution was poor. Well, his distribution wasn't poor. He completed 92% of his passes, some of which were long-range passes. You know what Sanchez did in goal? About the same. So what's your problem with his distribution? Are you seeing things we're not seeing? Because he didn't misplace loads of passes. He had a 92% pass completion rate, and there was a wide range of passing, and it was exactly the same as Sanchez. Wow, Mark. Wow. It might, yeah, right, okay, but it's the way he passes. It's the way. There's no confidence in it. Well, it was fine. It was absolutely fine. There is a myth being attached to David De Gea, and exactly the same thing happened last year. It was about February, March time, and this weird Henderson cult started up again. And I thought it was weird a year ago. I really did. I think it's even weirder this year when it's our player of the year. But look, it is all about opinion. I accept that. And there's 2 things I would say. His distribution was actually fine last night. It was actually good. So I don't know where you're pulling these ridiculous stats that his distribution was poor, because it just doesn't add up. Look at all the passes he made, 92% success rate. So where's this bad distribution you're talking about? There was probably 1 or 2. But I guarantee you Sanchez did 1 or 2 for Brighton. So absolute nonsense with that. But the best thing about this is, and this is where it really, really makes me laugh, is that even if I acknowledge it and say, okay, let's buy a goalkeeper with better distribution, why is this a thing? Do you actually analyse football games? Why is this a thing? You think a goalkeeper with amazing distribution is going to make us better? Harry Maguire's still our centre-back. McTominay and Fred are still in midfield. It's still a graveyard shift up front. But you think goalkeeper distribution ranks anywhere in the top 20 major issues that team has got? Goalkeeper distribution is where it's all going wrong. We've got one of the best goalkeepers in the world in relation to stopping goals going in the net. But you think goalkeeper distribution is the key to the problem at Man United. I mean, Jesus wept. I cannot believe that people think goalkeeper distribution is massively important to the huge raft of issues United have got at the moment. I mean, I tell you what, can someone send an email into Richard Arnold? Because he might have missed this. All the problems that the United, it's about goalkeeper distribution. This is where we're going wrong. If we had decent goalkeeper distribution, we'd be winning the bloody treble. I mean, it's just, people get locked in on obsessions. You talk about agenda, and I'll tell you what, De Gea's player of the year. His distribution was actually good last night, but no, it's the key point. Let's talk about goalkeeper distribution. I mean, well, even if he hit 100% instead of 92%, he's only passing it to Fred. I mean, what's Fred going to do with it? Oh, fucking hell, he's passed it to me. Shit the bed. I've given it to a Brighton player. Oh, I've given it to McTominay and he's knocked it out for a throw-in. You know, I've given it to Maguire and he's passed it sideways. Like, goalkeeper distribution has its place. But please, let's solve the other problems first. It's not even icing on the cake. You know when I say, like, there's some things that would be nice to solve, but let's build the cake before we put the icing on. You're delivering the cake box to the customer and there's no cake in it. Oh, it's a lovely box. I love the distribution. Yeah, look what's inside. Sod all. You know, it's like, it literally is like, goalkeeper distribution for United is like buying a box to send to somebody and putting nothing inside it. Oh, what a lovely package. What a lovely distribution service. Yeah, there's nothing inside. Build the bloody team first. You know, I wake up this morning and I can see people criticising Ronaldo and De Gea and I'm like, oh my God, we were shit last night. We won the game because of them. And the normal people are getting a free pass. On Ronaldo, I had people saying to me last night, oh, you're such a hypocrite, Mark. You're such a hypocrite, Mark. You know, there you are, going mad about Ronaldo, and then in another breath you're saying let's not celebrate one good performance in 10. And I'm like, oh my God, they are now attaching Cristiano Ronaldo to Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire. Because I have said we have this tendency to over-celebrate average performances from McTominay or Fred or Maguire because they've been consistently rubbish all season. So when they don't make a mistake and they have an average game, everyone says they were good, when actually they were just average. But people are now wanting to put Ronaldo into that. One of the world's best ever players who scores an amazingly world-class individual goal, we're now going to say, well, it's only one good game in 10, he's just like Maguire. People actually want to do that. You know, our top scorer, our player that's actually got us into the Champions League knockout stage, a player that yesterday scored a goal that not many people in the world can score. And we're now going to go, well, it's only one good performance in 10, it's only the same as Fred and McTominay. Oh my God. Oh my God. But look, you know, this is why I just don't deal in agendas. You know, this is why I started the show talking about Paul Pogba, who's a player I think needs to go in the summer, and saying how important he is. This is why people are tagging me into stuff last night saying, Bruno was actually really good last night, your player ratings was rubbish. And I'm like, I'm one of Bruno's biggest fans. I actually took Seb to school this morning in a Bruno t-shirt. I'm one of Bruno's favourite fans. But I don't think he played well last night. I don't deal in agenda, I deal in what I see. A lot of people were slagging Delo off. I actually thought Delo did quite well. Maguire last night. A lot of people said Maguire played crap last night. A lot of people said he played good last night. I think the truth with Maguire is that he was okay last night. So, you know, I think that... Look, I think, unfortunately, the modern football world is like this. And, you know, I fall victim of it. We all do. It's so flip-flop. Like, because you get one game where it's a bad result against Southampton and then you beat Brighton, you know, all the negativity of the Southampton game, which was probably half right, becomes a load of positivity for the Brighton win, which is probably only half right as well. People change. There are literally people on Twitter who will go, Maguire is a load of shit, sell him now. And then this morning they're waking up, oh, he was decent, let's give him a chance. There are people out there, you know that. What did I think about Maguire last night? I think I gave him a 6. I gave him an average 6. I thought he was okay last night. I've always said I don't think he's totally trash. I just think he's playing trash. But what I would say about Maguire last night, I think that's as good as he can play. The only way he could have a better performance than that would be to score a goal from a header. I don't think he's capable of better than that. Now, whether you think that's not good enough, whether you thought it was good, I thought it was quite average. I don't think he's capable of being better than that. And I said this 2 weeks ago. When I talk about Maguire, I don't think he played bad last night. I don't. I don't. I really don't. You know, he could have jumped on the Welbeck header. If that had gone in, I would have blamed him and Lindelof, to be fair. He just didn't jump. And he's the first man, so he's got to jump. But it didn't go in. So I thought he played okay. I think it's a good example of some fans will over-egg an okay performance. I think we have this issue at United with McTominay and Fred and Maguire and some other players where if they don't make a mistake, they've had a good game. Well, that's, you know, I've seen Paul Ince, Brian Robson, Roy Keane, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, Michael Carrick, you know, these players play in the midfield for Manchester United, and if they've had an okay game, they've had a bad game because they were playing very well most games. So okay is not good enough for United. But Maguire was okay last night, and, you know, I don't have any problems saying he was okay. I'm not even going to call him out for, you know, a misplaced pass or anything like that. I thought he was okay last night. But I think he becomes part of the long-term problems like some players that we have as well. And he's quite symbolic of it, because if you were happy with Maguire's performance last night, then that's what you're going to get for the next 18 months. If you weren't happy with it last night, then that's what you're going to get for the next 18 months. If you thought it was okay like me, then I think that's the pinnacle of what we're going to get for the next 18 months. I just don't think he's good enough for Manchester United, because he's never going to find any pace. He's never going to find any agility. He clearly isn't going to find any leadership skills. And those three things are really important if you want to be a top-class centre-back. And I think he's more than capable of putting in a performance like last night, like he did against West Ham. Was it 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago? And if he can add a goal or two with his head from a corner, people would probably say Harry Beckenbauer's back. But I think that's the limitation of Maguire. I thought that performance last night, it wasn't bad. It was okay. But can he... You know, I think if you're watching Van Dijk, you go, oh, he's massively out of form. But, you know, he did okay last night and he can build on that. And because you know with Van Dijk, he's quick, he's strong, he's one of the world's best centre-backs. With Maguire, I think you look at that last night and you go, that was okay. And I don't mind people saying it was good. But where's the gear to go up? Like, he's not going to be any better than last night. You know, he's not. Like, everything he did last night was what Harry Maguire is as a centre-back. There's no more pace to come. There's no more agility to come. There's no more reading of the game to come. It's about, can he win most of his 50-50s and interceptions and aerial duels? And last night, I think he was reasonably good at that. But you know what I mean? There's no gear to go above that. That's the pinnacle to me of Harry Maguire last night. That's his limit. Apart from maybe getting a goal, you know. And if that's good enough for you, that's fine. If it's not good enough for you, that's fine. But I think it's symbolic of the future. The future for me is not bright at Manchester United. It's just not. We've got too many players that aren't good enough. But the short-term future, I think when you focus on what Ronaldo did last night, what De Gea did last night, Bruno was certainly a lot better in the second half, and you've got Paul Pogba playing with freedom. If those four players can build the rest of the players up around them, then fourth place is very much achievable for United, and maybe a quarter-final in the Champions League. And ultimately, that's about as good as it's going to get, isn't it? So the main thing is that we go into Leeds and win, and then we beat Watford at home. There's a real opportunity now to... And you know what? As bad as the points dropped against Burnley and Southampton were, what did we discuss? Bruno created 5 massive chances as a playmaker, says Sam. And this is what I mean, Sam. Like, you can't... I love doing this. I absolutely love doing it, because there is absolutely never going to be a time where we 100% agree. There never will be. And you've got Sam there making a great point that Bruno Fernandes created 5 great chances last night. And Bruno Fernandes is one of my favourite players at Manchester United. But I don't think he played well last night, because he's a midfielder. He's acting spoilt. I'm fed up of it. And in the first half, he was the invisible man. And it's a 90-minute game. So, but some people will go, we won the game 2-0. He scored a goal. He created loads of chances. For me, that's an 8 out of 10. I give him a 6. I was appalled by his performance in the first half. And in the second half, he did turn it around. But, you know, there's been a lot of those performances from Bruno this season. But I love the debate, because there'll be people going, you don't know what you're on about, Goldbridge. And yet I'm one of Bruno's biggest fans. And that's why agenda shouldn't exist. You should look at a game, and you should look at form and make an opinion that's not about, I've got Bruno on the back of my shirt, or I don't like Bruno. Like, you know, I would hope there's people who don't like Bruno who are saying, I thought he played well last night. Because that's what an opinion's all about, isn't it? That's what it is all about. I love Bruno. I didn't like his performance last night. You know, probably quite a controversial take, but I can only be honest with what I thought. And, a lot of people didn't like Maguire's performance last night. I actually thought it was okay. I don't think it was good. I thought it was okay. But I don't think there's a ceiling to go above that. And I think that's United's problem as well. We won last night. On another day, we might have lost the game. I think we've got a ceiling. But I do think people like Pogba, Ronaldo, De Gea and Bruno could be key over the next few weeks if we can get them playing well with confidence. And also another positive as well that I think is worth noting is that these 5 games that we had, the Burnley game, the Southampton game, the Brighton game, and then Leeds and Watford to come, 5 games predominantly against teams in the mid to bottom part of the table. We had hoped 15 points. It's never going to happen with United. That's never happened even with Van Gaal or Mourinho. We've never been able to do it. We've always looked at periods and gone, that boy should be taking maximum points. But the funny thing is, if we do beat Leeds and Watford, which are more achievable than Southampton and Brighton, they're easier games on paper, we'd actually have taken 11 points from 15, which is not 15 from 15, but it's only 1 less than what I said we needed to take 12 at least to be in the race for top 4. And 11 is only 1 less than 12. So as much as the Southampton and Burnley results were disappointing, if we can win the next 2, 11 from 15, whilst it's not what we needed, it's not disastrous. So let's just see if we can take the next 6. I mean, Watford are crap and Leeds are wide open, so there's a real opportunity there. Don't forget that McTominay was the one who won the ball, which allowed Ronaldo to score. I think sometimes you give him the credit, don't give him the credit. Grime, but you know what? Again, you make a fantastic point. Like, McTominay tackled someone and we scored a goal. And I think you make a great point because it's just about how you analyse a game of football. Like Maguire probably won a couple of headers. Does that make him man of the match? Like, player does their job. Let's ignore all the things they did badly. And that's not how I analyse a game. It's the same as Bruno. Bruno could have had 5 assists, apparently. I don't think he played well. I thought he was awful in the first half. But some people think he was man of the match contender. I thought McTominay was crap last night, but you raise a good point. He made a tackle that led to a goal. Does that one tackle... McTominay probably made more tackles than anybody else with Delo. I wouldn't be surprised if McTominay made more tackles than anybody else. But does one tackle that leads to an assist in 90 minutes mean they had a good performance? It's an open-ended question. In my opinion, no, it doesn't. I thought he was indisciplined. I thought he was the invisible man in the first half with Fred. I thought they got absolutely annihilated in the midfield. I think they lost the midfield battle. But then he won one tackle that led to the Ronaldo goal. But then again, that Ronaldo goal was just so individualistic. But if you don't win the tackle, he doesn't score the goal. So I think it's just about the way you analyse football. And that's the beauty of football. You will get people who are telling you, oh, man doesn't know anything what he's on about. They doesn't know anything. And I know what I'm on about because I'm brilliant. But you're not. Even the best analyst of football in the world, who's got a computer system and everyone it looks up to, they don't know football. You put them on a football pitch, you probably skin them, They might still be able to watch a game and analyse a game really well, but even they are doing it subjectively. Any stat is subjective because you could have a player last night for United who completed only 3 passes out of 10. But you could have another United player who completed 10 passes out of 10. But the better player was the one who did 3 out of 10. Even though he misplaced 7 passes, he's trying to do a different type of pass. So, stats can be manipulated. I've always said this. But, for me, I don't think McTominay played well last night. Obviously had a big part in the Ronaldo goal. But, one sunny day doesn't make a summer, does it? And I think that he does deserve credit for that. But should I give him... What did I give him last night? 5? Give him 5 out of 10? Give him and Fred 5 out of 10. Should I give him an average 6 because he got a tackle in? Some people would. I wouldn't go above an average, though. So, look, I think there's a lot for Manchester United to work on, but we know that anyway. But the result is fantastic, and they've got to work on from that. And we're fortunate that these run of games are quite winnable, and I think we've just got to go and beat Leeds and Burnley now, and then the season really starts. Because I personally think in the race for top 4, only Arsenal are a threat. I just don't think Spurs or West Ham or Wolves are, and I might be proven wrong on that. If we can beat Leeds at the weekend, we are. I think we're 3 points to... No, we're 4 points ahead of Arsenal at the moment. They've got 3 games in hand. If we beat Leeds tomorrow on Sunday, we'd be 7 points of Arsenal. So 7 points ahead of Arsenal with 4 games in hand. I'd take that. That's where points on the table become more important than games in hand. So we put the pressure onto Arsenal. The funny thing is, if we'd beaten Burnley, we'd be 9 points ahead of Arsenal with 4 games in hand. If we'd beaten Southampton, we'd be 11 points ahead of Arsenal with 4 games in hand. So we really could have ramped the pressure on. Arsenal just aren't playing a lot at the moment. I don't know why. I think it's because of Carabao Cup, Anatar and stuff like that. Mbappe was frighteningly good last night. I remember when Rashford used to play like that for us. He needs to fix up soon, says Aram. Yeah, Mbappe's one of the best players in the world, isn't he? Yeah. You see, Alex doesn't like my analysis. Well, Alex, you know the great thing about my analysis is I like it. You know, I don't just pull it out my arse. I actually go back and watch highlights and stuff like that, which is why I said, if you want to know what United's biggest problem is, watch the highlights from a minute before Welbeck's header in the 89th minute yesterday. And if you know football, you'll know what I'm on about. I don't even need to direct you. You'll see where Brighton start with the ball. You'll see the way they play through our press, pass the ball through our midfield, and end up with a free header for Welbeck. And that is United's problem. We're just not a very good side. We're not. And I think Rangnick's hit on the right formula. Go back to what Ollie did. Play very deep, keep a clean sheet and rely on a moment. And Moments FC has arisen. That's what we did last night. Moments FC arose. De Gea with a big save, clean sheet, Ronaldo individualistic. We win the game. And that's the way I think we're going to get top 4 at the moment. And I think unfortunately, and fortunately, different opinion is what makes the world great. But unfortunately, we will have people in our fan base who just completely misread the room. They start going off on wrong things, and they'll see that performance last night and they'll suddenly be going, oh, give such and such a break, they're good enough. And the next bad result will come around the corner and they'll be slagging them off again. I just think try to be consistent. Don't run away with a bad result and don't run away with a good result. I think short term, we might be able to put a smile on our face, and I think Pogba symbolises that with his freedom that he's got. He's got a different mentality to everybody because he knows he's going in the summer, so he can play with freedom. Everyone else just seems to be dragged down by this pressure. I don't know why they're feeling pressure. As a United player, you should be able to deal with pressure. I think long term, we're in a lot of trouble. I think next season we're in trouble, but this season we are in trouble. It wasn't our aim to get 4th, but I think we can get 4th. And we do need a whole new midfield, 100%. I think Tekers is right. We do need a whole new midfield. I thought Fred, this is why the criticism of people like De Gea and Ronaldo is ridiculous when they were match winners. And then I hear next to nothing about Fred or Rashford, who I thought were terrible. I know Rashford only came on for a bit, but I thought it was terrible. I thought Fred was unbelievably bad. I thought McTominay was poor. But these players don't get mentioned because there's no point talking about them. They're not good enough, but they're starting games for United. You want to criticise people like De Gea or Bruno or Ronaldo, who actually are capable of being match winners for us, and all were last night. But we won't criticise Fred, and yet he's starting games. This is what I talk about when people talk about, oh, I'd like this to be better, I'd like that to be better. But at least those things are actually contributing. They might not be contributing enough, but they are contributing. We've got people who are starting games for United who are losing the midfield battle every bloody game, and they're starting. And people seem to have forgotten that that's the problem. But, we won the game. Pogba's a huge positive. I think Ronaldo's going to kick on from here. We've got an amazing goalkeeper, and if we can keep the clean sheets, the moments will come. Because when you've got a Paul Pogba on the pitch, and you've got a Ronaldo on the pitch, and if Bruno can perform better, and Sancho's doing well, we should never be having a 0-0 game. We should always be scoring a goal. If we can keep a clean sheet, we'll win a lot of games. And that's what Ollie's, it was very basic, but Ollie's mentality for his last 18 months was keep a clean sheet, get a goal. Moments FC. If we can go back to that, we'll probably get top 4, because I don't think United drawn many games 0-0. I think we've always got a goal in us, and if we can keep a clean sheet, we'll be all right. And it's nice to have a bit of positivity, and I think, as I said, I get it. Brighton dominated us. I can't even talk about how much they dominated us in that first half. And the red card, I've not even mentioned it, saved us. I don't think we win the game if that player doesn't get sent off. And it's interesting, Graham Potter said he didn't think it was a red card and that, realistically, it shouldn't have gone to VAR. And look, the red card had a massive part to play in why we won the game. When I first saw that, I thought, it's one of those. A lot of you said it should have been a red card because Elanga was going to get across. But I thought Potter made a really good point, and I think this is where I was on the night. I just didn't articulate it properly. What Potter said is, the referee gave a yellow card. He saw it live and he gave a yellow card because he thought that the defender was going to get across. The VAR man has looked at it and said, you might want to have another look. And then he's gone and looked at it and thought, I don't think he is going to get across. It's a red card. Nothing wrong with that. But what Potter said is, these things are meant to be when it's a clear and obvious error. It wasn't clear and obvious that the defender wasn't going to get there. So I can see where Potter was coming from. But from our point of view, we need that. And I'm very impressed with Potter, and I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a very good coach. And what you know what else he said? The difference in that game is that they've got a world-class player and we haven't. And that I don't think he was just referring to Ronaldo, although he probably was. You could say that about the goalkeeper as well. But the major point is that we probably deserve a little bit of luck recently. You know, Middlesbrough, we'd still be in the FA Cup if VAR had done its job. So, you know, you can't moan about a little bit of luck like that. And we needed the win, and I think that's the positive. And as I said, the symbolism of positivity for me at the moment is Paul Pogba. He's playing with the freedom. I think when he's on the pitch, we're better for it. And I just think you've got to get into that mindset. Well, you've got to do what you want to do. I've got into that mindset where I'm very worried about the future of Manchester United. I can only see things getting worse long term. But in the short term, I was thinking we wouldn't get top 4 a few weeks ago. With Pogba in that team, I just feel that he's a breath of fresh air. He's not bound by the chains of United's concerning future because he doesn't need to be here. He can go wherever he wants in the summer. So I think he's playing with the freedom, a smile on his face. He looks relaxed. He looks like the game changer. And he is like a new signing because we didn't have Pogba before. And now we have got him. And has any other club got a player like that who's competing with us? I mean, we could breeze to top 4 with Pogba. I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but I think he's a really big positive. And I think that's where I focus at the moment. I'm focusing on the short term because the long term is a difficult one to read. I think with all the VAR decisions that have gone against us recently, we deserve that. I totally agree, Lil. Totally agree. And love the show from Australia. Viva Ronaldo got away with the win. Looking forward to the Champions League. David is the best in the world at the moment, says Andrew. He's the best shot stopper in the world at the moment. There's no doubt about that. TUSFC today will be on today. Owen, definitely. I'll be back at 2. I've got a video for you at 2. Head-to-head's back. Remember last week I did Maguire against Lindelof. Head-to-head's back at 2 o'clock. Unless we get any breaking news. The head-to-head series is back. And it's 2 players I think you'll really be interested in looking at today. It's De Gea against Henderson. No, it's not. It's not De Gea against Henderson. You can guess who it's going to be in the chat. I'll be back at 2 o'clock. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. And remember, your opinion's your opinion. Like, I don't like agendas, and, you know, Bruno's my favourite player, but I didn't like his performance yesterday, I'm sorry. But at least it shows that I don't do favourites. I judge it on the performance. And Dalot, a lot of people criticising him. I thought he had a good game. You know, people going on about De Gea's distribution, and it was exactly the same as the Brighton's goalkeeper, with loads of passes long and short. So I don't do agenda and I don't do myth. I do performance. And Maguire, look, I don't think he was bad. I don't think he was good. I thought he was okay. Like, that's how it is. Is it Fred versus McTominay? Oh, no, not today. Thanks, everyone, for watching. You'll see what it is at 2. Make sure you subscribe so you get your notification, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. And don't forget, Manscaped, link in the video description. 20% off with the code UnitedStand. Get your order in today. You won't regret it. Trim the grass to make the yard look bigger. You can get that for your nose. Performance package is available as well. Free delivery worldwide. 20% off with the code UnitedStand. Get in the link in the description and get your Manscaped order in today.